Return the slime.
Roblox zombie games have been around for over a decade now, with countless games which vary heavily in quality. To be fair, most of the popular ones on the platform just kind of follow trends. Michael's Zombies copied Call of Duty Zombies, Reason to Die copied Left 4 Dead, and this one doesn't even try to hide it. But when I grew up, the zombie games were a lot different, and most people watching this video probably won't even recognize them because back in 2012, you were a lucky man if you could get your game to get to even 100 players. Little did you know, before Michael's Zombies, you had Star Battle Zombies. Before Project Lazarus, you had Call of Robloxia. And before Zombie Stories, you had Undead Nation, and also some others like Contamination and Zombie Tower. Now, were these games better than what we have now? If you ask a die-hard boomer, then yes, but for me, they were whatever. When you're a kid, you have a hard time telling if something is bad or not. That's why Shark Boy and Lava Girl exist.
Mr. Electric, send him to the principal's office and have him expelled!
Anyways, today we're going to be talking about the classic Roblox zombie game, Undead Nation, which I think is a particularly interesting zombie game to talk about for a decent number of reasons. For one, it's really old. It had its initial start around 2012, where it seemed to take inspiration from other zombie games coming out at the time, like Resident Evil, Call of Duty Zombies, and Left 4 Dead, which is something that every other popular front page zombie game did also. It also has a small but loyal fan base, and the game still gets minor updates every now and then. People still play this game today, even if it's incredibly dated. An Undead Nation soundtrack? Bro, I remember everybody getting sturdy to that. Also, this game might have been stolen from somebody else, as it was very common for Roblox games to steal from each other back then. Undead Nation starts out in a city that's being overrun by the zombie infection, and your main goal is to escape. As you make your way through the city, you're met with a variety of unique zombies. The heavy zombie, who has a lot of health and can trip players. The fast zombie, who's fast. The poison zombie, who's also fast, but also poisons you. And the troll zombie, who just runs at you and trips you. Also, there's the obligatory normal zombie. You find a truck, but then you can remember that Roblox physics have updated over the past decade, and it causes the old school cars to slide all over the place because of their slippery wheels. The car wheels in Undead Nation are by far the biggest annoyance to both veteran and new players alike because they're clear signs that this game is dated. If you didn't already see that through the other signs that the game just throws right at you. If you're ever finding yourself in a car level in Undead Nation, please just remember to tap the W key and not hold the W key. If you don't lightly tap the W key, then you'll slide out of control and crash into a single mother and her 3 kids. When you're about to make your way out of the city, then these special zombies spawn called the super fast zombies. Make sure you get a good look at them because this is out of 1 of 2 times that they actually appear in the entire game. Yes, I know my stuff about obscure Roblox games. One at a time, ladies. Chapter 2 is called The Outskirts, in which it takes place in the outskirts. Apparently this city was surrounded by a giant brick wall, but you can only see it from like this little spot here. Also, there's a hole in it where the super fast zombies spawn. So this is why they needed the wall in the first place. Keep those goddamn super fast zombies on their side of the border. This is the final time that you will ever see super fast zombies ever again. After that, you make it to some ancient ruins in the middle of the desert, which starts a zombie ambush of 3 waves. Then after that, a guy named the Sand Boss spawns. He's basically a beefed up heavy zombie, but he also has the ability to create shockwaves that trip you as well as hit you with his balls. His attacks also cause the screen to darken, which can make it difficult to see, given the game used to be really fucking dark back then. I mean, games back then used to be super well lit all around, to be fair, but then Roblox introduced more realistic lighting. So if your game didn't have ambient light already, then that shit was like pitch black. When you defeat the sand boss, the game tells you to go press the button on this conveniently placed ancient box thing, which teleports you to a volcano, where Chapter 3 begins. Chapter 3 is called Fire and Ashes, and it features a unique zombie type that's never utilized ever again in the entire game. The fire zombie. Yeah, they set you on fire. There's also lava that can also set you on fire if you step on it. I wish there was a boss that helped you through this part. So you get to the top of the volcano, and now you have to fight the lava boss, which it was actually kind of a little difficult growing up. The lava boss is similar to the sand boss, not just in its face. Just like the sand boss, the chapter before him, he can hit you with his balls and stuff, but the environmental lava in the arena will also periodically rise. It's actually kind of cool. In the original, the lava would rise high to the point where there wasn't exactly a lot of space to stand, but ever since the game has undergone tweaks and replaced the original voxel terrain, this fight is a lot easier in present day. Also, his height proves to be some sort of weakness because he gets stuck on shit. After killing him, the lava stops rising, and then you get a message that's like, yeah, we're gonna be picking up any survivors if you can get to the radio tower. So you do that. You exit the volcano through this door, and you make a smooth transition to Chapter 4, Sky High. Chapter 4 is an odd one because it can be rather frustrating at times. It takes place in the mountains, and you can very easily fall off. What a coincidence that this subsequently takes place right after the lava map. As long as you aren't playing on mobile, then the basic jumping shouldn't prove to be too much of a problem. The only annoying part is when you get knocked over by a troll zombie or a heavy zombie. After hitting some buttons to open a passage, you're attacked by the mysterious nanomites, which are little bug-like things that are difficult to melee and also give you the poison status effect, along with an additional status effect called virus, which distorts your vision by constantly adjusting your FOV. Another somewhat seamless transition leads you into Chapter 5, the radio tower. You have to defend the radio tower from zombies, and on the third wave, nanomites spawn. The radio tower successfully sends out a message for help, but you get a response saying that your rescue team has died and now it's up to you to go to the laboratory at very specific coordinates. So then you have to find shelter, aka go down the path that was previously blocked by an invisible wall. This segues you into Chapter 6, which is called Nano Den. But it doesn't fucking feel like a Nano Den at all. This chapter makes you walk from point A to point B where nothing happens. There are no nanomites here. Literally. Well, actually, I lied. Once you get to the very obvious boss arena, a nanomite spawns without a name tag for some reason, and you kill it. And then the Nano King shows up and gets mad at you because and then there's this really dumb fight. When I was younger, forgive me for my nostalgia boner, but when I was younger, I remember this fight being a lot harder. Like, nanomites would continuously spawn, and it would be to the point where the game would spawn you medkits because of how hard that fight was. Now, in present day, the nanoboss only infrequently spawns 2 nanomites at a time. Also, he tries to hit you with his balls that give you a status effect. And yeah, by the way, all the bosses in this game have, like, the same fucking attacks. And then after that, you have to fight off waves of zombies, which is slowly starting to get really fucking old. Because later in the story, this wave-based survival bullshit gets absolutely fucking spammed to death. The second half of the survival chapter sees the weird and unacknowledged inclusion of a new type of recurring zombie, the shadow zombie. Please keep this small detail in mind because I think that I might have a legitimate explanation for why, which I'll go over later. By the way, when you kill the Nano King, he drops a P90 for some fucking reason. Maybe he's a dock main. So you break down the walls like you're strip mining in Minecraft. I mean, that's literally what it looks like because this game came from an era where Roblox was accused of copying Minecraft style. This diamond strip mine leads us into Chapter 7, which is called Elemental Mentality. This chapter is all about getting to the base that was established in Chapter 5, but I don't feel as if anybody's paying much attention at this point. You discover a new type of zombie called the Elemental Zombie. The Elemental Zombie is really annoying, but it's unique, but it's annoying! It's like the Fire Zombie, except it has the ability to also inflict you with the Frostbite status effect, which slows you in addition to taking damage, depending on if you touch the Ice arm or the Lava arm. Elemental zombies become recurring after this, and they will show up in every chapter after this as well, which begs the question of why the fire zombie was only used in one chapter ever. The elemental zombies are, like the fire zombies, faster than you, so have fun with that, I guess. A horde of them break down a wall, but it's weird because only 2 of them spawn at a time despite having enough of them to break down a fucking wall. Then they drop a crowbar, which is funny because they might have actually used it to break down the wall. This is the second and only time ever that Undead Nation gives you a weapon for killing a zombie. The previous example was coincidentally only like 5 minutes ago. When you try to advance to the next area, you're warped back to the sand boss fight in Chapter 2 because that was fun and you have to fight him again. Alright, that was weird. Anyways, now you have to make your way to the lab and send a distress message. And then you're teleported back to the Nano Den in Chapter 6, which is not that much of a jump when you think about it because that was literally like 5 minutes ago. Then a black guy sets the dead nanomite on fire. And then you're teleported back again, the military finds you, they get you in a helicopter, but then the black guy shows up again and crashes the helicopter. Also, the shadow guy has the power to turn the brick helicopter into a mesh helicopter after it crashes. Also, your character says something along the lines of, "Let's hope this isn't a bad sign of things to come." Well, yeah, like the rest of the game being really fucking annoying. The obligatory helicopter crash is a hard cut into Chapter 8, which you're going to have to get used to because I'm 99% sure that every chapter after this is a hard transition into the next. Chapter 8 is called Dark Chase, and it's probably the most annoying chapter. Which is interesting because when I was younger, I remember being so hyped for Chapter 8 and 9. Like I said before, I guess when you're a kid, you don't really care at all, but still. I can totally see how poorly parts of this game were constructed, and I'm not blinded by my nostalgia at all. The helicopter conveniently crashed in linear zombie defense level. You have to defend against 8 waves of zombies while the wall blows.
I'm about to blow.
Kind of like chapter 6, except this time it's a whopping 8 waves of zombies. This chapter also introduces the snipe zombie as a recurring enemy. It's a zombie that stays at the back and shoots balls at you. I wonder where that asset came from. Every 2 waves, dead players will be given a chance to respawn, but after that, if you die, then you're fucked. This chapter is needlessly long, and the majority of its time isn't even made. Called Mind of the Mist, and it's also similar to chapter 8 in the way that it drags on. You run into some useless NPCs that tell you that they saw the same thing as you. Then you have to find 2 buttons again, except this time they're hidden in goofy ways, so this puzzle is actually kind of funny, I won't lie.
It shouldn't be this hard.
You have to click it. You have to click it.
Ooh, and Brett, I found out my what is it? My ear is violently deaf. Huh? Yeah, my ear. What? You're deaf? Yeah. Yeah, but I allow a lot of loudness. Okay, yeah.
It's on the floor.
Oh.
Then you have to do another wave-based survival of 8 waves, except this time there's useless NPCs of which some of the zombies can actually outrun their bullets. I literally spent so much time trying to murder them, which you can actually do. The zombies won't go after them, but if they're in the way, then they'll hit them. So yes, you can actually murder them. After that, you have to enter the room with just infected Marines, which are snipe zombies, except they shoot guns. Wait, this is just kind of like that bit from chapter 8 where you also have to fight ranged enemies after surviving the wave-based bit. Maybe I'm thinking into it too much. What is it? And then finally you get to fight the Mist boss. The Mist boss is the figure that was established in chapter 7, and this fight is slightly different from the other boss fights, which is nice. Yes, he does the obligatory balling and the shockwaves, but he can also go invisible and is immune to fire, which is shown as to how he burned the nanomite in chapter 7. This is probably because the flamethrower is really fucking powerful. He obviously gives you this shadow effect when he hits you, but he's also able to regain health, probably through rewinding time, as he did that in chapter 7 as well. Then after you kill him, he turns into another portal, which leads you to the next chapter. Chapter 10 is called The Under. It's a weird filler chapter, to be honest. It's a hodgepodge of random zombie types and is also the final appearance of the infected marine zombie. I don't know why that matters. When that's all done, you see a pair of glowing eyes establishing who the next antagonist will be. And then you're teleported to chapter 11. Chapter 11 is called Zolber, where you find a remaining colony of humans led by a guy named Zolber. He says you're allowed to stay as long as you complete 2 tasks. The first task is defending the town against waves of zombies. Except it's not as bad this time because you get help from a minigun that's actually really helpful. Also, there's a new zombie introduced and never seen again called the Shocker, which makes shockwaves. I can't imagine where that asset came from. I mean, I just love how low effort this guy looks. You can also fall to your death on this chapter at the start. That is like the worst thing. I don't care. Fuck! The second task involves investigating a power outpost because apparently that will remedy the power shortage. And then you see that everybody in there has been murdered. You check the security footage, and for some reason, it fucking teleports you 3 feet again into chapter 13. The dead worker says that everything is a lie and that Zolber killed them all, which is weird because he sent you to investigate it. Why didn't he just kill you right then and there? I don't know. And then Zolber turns a machine gun against you, which I remember doing a lot more damage than it does now in present day. And then you have to investigate the secret laboratory underneath the Zolber place, because we're in Resident Evil now, I guess. Also, I know that Zolber is supposed to be Roblox spelled backwards, but isn't it also interesting how Zolber sounds like Wesker? And also the only accessory that they decided to give him were a pair of black shades. Anyways, I digress.
I'm sorry for my lack of manners, but I'm not used to escorting men.
You come across undead combine units and scientists, which don't really attack you unless you go near them. Also, I wrote a wiki article on the undead combine guy a couple years ago. You then come across a door that needs DNA in order to open it, and then you fight a failed subject to obtain the DNA. And then finally you get to Zolber's boss arena, where he proceeds to explain the entire plot. Oh my fucking god. He says that he created the infection in order to enhance the human race, and that he originally created 4 designated soldiers who turned out to be the Sand Boss, the Lava Boss, the Nano King, and the Mist Boss. Zolber says that he has observed their strengths and weaknesses, and now he has to kill you because the lab was neutralized. Bro, you neutralized your entire fucking town. He killed the power station people. We reported the dead body, and now I'm assuming that he also killed the people in the lab and the town, right? Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, when you come back to the town, everything's zombified and stuff. Maybe they just forgot to go over that plot point. And because this is Resident Evil now, Zolber turns into a big, giant, mega zombie. I wish the game would make you shoot him, and then that's what makes him turn into a zombie, because that would make sense. But he decides after explaining the entire plot to you that he's just gonna kill you. Remember how I said that Zolber claimed he knew the previous boss's strengths and weaknesses? Well, he lied! For one, all of the boss's attacks are the same, including him. Just like the other bosses, he just chases you and makes you touch his balls. The only unique thing that Zolber does is put up a shield to make the boss fight last long, which you have to kill the linked subject zombie in order to destroy the shield. Also, he gives you every status effect. Beyond that, though, there's not really anything to display. And then after killing him, he spouts some bullshit about how he was only part of phase 1, and that there's stronger zombies out there, and that some mysterious voice teleports you to chapter 13. Now, the rest of these chapters came out after the main story was completed, and they're basically just like the MCU post-endgame. Things are just kind of being made up as they go along. So chapter 13 sees you fighting new enemies that are made up of goop or something. They're the original zombie types, except they explode on death and deal more damage. I think. That's apparently what people say on the wiki, and I really don't care that much anymore. Now you have to fight the detained figure, and this boss is admittedly more entertaining than Zolber was. He shields himself, and you have to collect these big black balls in order to remove the shield. Also, detained zombies will spawn periodically during the fight, so that it's actually interesting. He is not immune to fire either, apparently, although his attacks are the exact same as all the others. Following the boss fight, you're teleported to the original map where the discontinued game known as Undead Nation 2 takes place. And then there's detained zombies, but they respawn when you kill them. Oh, scary. And then you have to run to the gate, but the gate is locked, and then you pass out because the game needs an excuse to teleport you, and you get teleported to chapter 14, the final chapter. It's called Metro Disturbance, and it's just another level from Undead Nation 2. The level that I remember actually enjoying as a kid. So you're in a metro, and then you have to hit a button to remove the invisible barrier that's stopping you from advancing, and then after that you run from a wall of water like in Code Required Discontamination. And then you make your way to the city again and find some heavy zombies, but after killing them, a different type of heavy zombie spawns. It's called a brute, and it's literally the tank from Left 4 Dead where it throws rocks at you. And it's really fucking easy to kill. They call it a brute because it fights brutally. And it exists because a heavy zombie was infected for a long time, so it got turned into a brute. Just like The Last of Us. And that's it. It's over. Was Undead Nation perfect? Fuck no, it was made by a kid. But it had passion in it, I guess, and it was held to a high regard. A lot of people have been campaigning for a remaster of the game, but it's just kind of out of the question, really. I mean, look at Zombie Stories. That game takes forever to add a new update. No offense to them, of course. So it's mutually agreed that if Undead Nation got a remaster, it would take a long time. And also the game probably wouldn't be financially viable in this day and age. The majority of kids want a game that's polished and easy to get into. And the games that make the most money on Roblox are like, you know, simulators or Bloxburg. Not Undead Nation. Honestly, a big part of what made the game so memorable was the use of the classic Roblox soundtrack. Like, the old Roblox soundtrack had some bangers before it was nuked. Like, One Winged Angel, Rose at Nightfall, Cursed Abbey. It made shooting zombies and fighting bosses feel amazing. And now it's all gone. Undead Nation lived a relatively healthy life cycle. It lived throughout the years being constantly updated, and even after the game's main story ended, the creators still updated the game to please the older fans. Even if these chapters didn't really make a lot of sense, all of us kind of mutually agreed that it's just good that the game was still getting updated. I mean, 2 of the levels are literally ripped straight from Undead Nation 2, which was a game that was never finished and ended up being privated. But as the years went on, some people began to notice some similarities, and echoes of a darker past began to eat away at Exeplex's legacy. Now this is where the story of Undead Nation takes a turn. Do you guys remember when I was talking about how Undead Nation now has Roblox's new terrain, but yet the background footage is of the old terrain? That's because the background footage of the first 5 chapters is of a completely different game, known as Nano Infection. And yeah, it looks a lot more genuine to how the old game used to look like. Now I'm about to blow your mind. This revelation shook me to the core. My childhood was changed in retrospective after hearing this news. Now, I didn't even know until less than a year ago, but there is significant evidence that points to the fact that Undead Nation was a stolen game, ripped straight from Nano Infection. Basically, Nano Infection was made in 2012 by this guy named Boom4444 around the exact same time that Undead Nation was made. I ended up playing through Nano Infection, and the game is basically the exact same game with minor differences. Some of the dialogue is different, and also the equipment that you spawn with is randomly selected. There isn't 100% concrete evidence in the form of numeric dates because so many Roblox places are created years before they're actually made into that game. But believe me, there's tons of much more damning evidence, don't worry. You know how I talked about how the shadow zombies were just randomly thrown into chapter 6? Well, that's something that really caught my attention because if you play Nano Infection and get to chapter 6, you'll find that, albeit incomplete, Boom's version of chapter 6 featured a real introduction for the shadow zombies, being called Underground Darkness. The shadow zombies actually had real use there. In fact, they would teleport. The Nano Den itself was also a lot darker, and also it wasn't just empty. The shadow zombies were actually threatening instead of just an inconvenience, and there's some random bullshit with the statue disappearing which states that the plot was supposed to be something completely different. So I'm thinking the guy who made Undead Nation just gutted chapter 6, which is why there's nothing in the first part of it, and then he added the boss arena onto it. Chapters 1 through 5 are also noticeably stylistically different from the rest of the game. First of all, they're all seamlessly connected, apart from the teleport to the volcano. They also all use classic Roblox terrain, where chapters 8 through 14 don't. And before any of you comment, Breadian, old Roblox terrain got removed, that's why the new chapters don't have it. No. Old terrain was in fact removed, but in 2017, and all of the chapters leading up to chapter 11 were added, I don't know, before early 2015. That's when the wiki articles were written for them, at least. Like, seriously, take a look at the second half of Undead Nation. Chapter 6 and 7 have zombies that drop weapons when the rest of the game previously and after didn't. Chapter 7 introduces the elemental zombies and starts with this weird teleporting back and forth shit when the rest of the game didn't. Every chapter after that involves teleporting from place to place, where the chapters before that just involved seamless transitions with the exception of when you teleport to the volcano. It's also very uncanny that the original game was called the Nano Infection because there's nanomites. Apparently the original nanomites started the Nano Infection and the cells of the infection grouped together to make nanomites. I don't know. In Undead Nation, they're never explained. Now, get this. There's also a help section in the game that wasn't updated beyond the titular nanomites, which features PNGs of the zombies. But if you go through Exeplex's inventory, he didn't make those assets. Where did he get these assets from? The creator of Nano Infection. However, Exeplex does seem to have created one asset, this poorly made PNG of the nanomite, which is absent from Nano Infection. Also, you can tell that this was written by somebody else due to the poor English. In 2020, Boom4444, the creator of Nano Infection, wrote that his game was really obscure and nobody really knew about it, so Exeplex just yoinked it from him and got away with it. People grew to know Undead Nation more than Nano Infection because Exeplex already had a slew of games under his belt while Boom didn't. Undead Nation grew in popularity and lived successfully throughout the years, while Nano Infection fell into obscurity. People went over a decade and grew up into adults without ever knowing about what happened. When Boom confronted Exeplex about the situation, they had this little exchange, and then it ended with him being banned from Undead Nation. Copying games was an extremely popular practice back then, by the way. It was extremely easy to. People used to copy Reason to Die, Contamination, Survive the Disasters, the list just goes on and on. It really brings into question how many games we ended up playing that were stolen. When I was younger, I remember playing a Contamination copy without realizing that it was copied. A lot of people would copy games and they tweak it to their liking. It was just something that people did. People also used to practice bait and switch a lot. a practice where the thumbnail and the title of the game was not relative to the actual game itself. And Xplex seems all too familiar with this one. Like I said before, it was common for different games to share the same place slot, which is why Undead Nation says that it was created in 2008, when in reality the game itself came out in 2012. The game was originally called Call of the Quarantine, but it was later changed to Undead Nation. Throughout the years, Undead Nation seemed to go under a variety of thumbnails that were not honest at all. This thumbnail here is taken from Swamp Quest, a game that was created by the guy who made Zombie Tower. And this one is sort of a medieval RPG. And this one shows a gravity gun for an odd reason, even though it's not in the game. And this never happened in the game, and this didn't happen either. Also, this leads us into the important fact that Xplex has already been seen copying and stealing places. This really old video depicts a young man playing a game where he has to escape the flooding city. But if you click the link in the description, it leads you to Undead Nation. So basically what happened is Xplex copied the flooding city game from 2011. Then he uploaded it. And then after that, he reused the slot and changed the game to Undead Nation, another copied game. I mean, this just kind of supports the claims that Xplex is a place stealer. You can also go into the game's code and find allegedly stolen assets. Did Undead Nation copy Nano Infection? I'm not a lawyer and I'm not trying to get sued, but I will say that these two games are very similar. And there is a myriad of damning evidence against Xplex. In the end, Undead Nation has served a role in many people's childhoods, including mine, and it's definitely had inspirations. People still play today. Xplex kept updating the game after its life cycle was over, and people still talk about it. I'm pretty sure Zolber is an enemy in some other Roblox zombie game too called Rise of the Dead, but I haven't played that shit. It's been over a decade since the game was allegedly stolen. That's 10 years of the majority of the fan base never knowing the truth about Undead Nation. That's actually kind of scary. Xplex, if you're watching this, I don't know what to think of everything fully, but it would still be nice if you could reply and clear some things up for the. As for Boom, I'm sorry that you lost motivation to keep making your game because of the situation. Do you guys think Undead Nation was stolen? And if you believe that it was stolen, what is your reaction? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to see more videos about zombie games or just old games in general, like this video, share it, send it around, get the word out about what just happened, and I'll see you in the next one. My name's Breadian, and I review and I play Roblox games.